Late on the morning of June 27th, 1957, a 25-year-old Austrian mountain climber named Kurt Diemberger plunged his ice axe into the deep snow ahead of him and then used the axe to pull himself up and over a big ice clump. Kurt and his climbing partner, a 32-year-old man named Hermann Buell, were climbing one of the tallest mountains in the world called Chogalisa, which is located in northern Pakistan. And they were doing this climb all alone, and they had virtually no safety equipment. Anybody who climbed Chogalisa did so with Sherpas and guides and oxygen masks, but Kurt and Hermann felt like, that takes all the fun out of mountain climbing. If they successfully climbed Chogalisa with no safety equipment, that would be a new world record. And when they began their journey a few days earlier, it had still felt like a great idea because the weather forecast was perfect. However, earlier that morning, Kurt noticed off to the south was a kind of ominous dark cloud making its way toward them. Storms have been killing mountain climbers basically for as long as mountain climbing has been a thing. And so they had to make a choice. Abort the mission now, go back to camp, or they could risk it and just try to speed their way up to the summit. And because Kurt and Hermann were actually within about 1,000 feet to the summit, they decided, you know what, let's just risk it. And so Kurt and Hermann just kept moving up that mountain. When they got about maybe 500 feet away from the summit, something changed. Kurt suddenly realized he couldn't see the mountain in front of him. That dark cloud had caught up to them. He could hear Hermann desperately screaming up to him, "Hey, we gotta turn around right now!" As fast as they could, they began going down the mountain, but right at that moment, the ground underneath Kurt began to vibrate. And then suddenly Kurt felt that feeling in your stomach that you're falling because the ground underneath him just gave way. It was an avalanche. Kurt, he just jumped. He was leaping up and out of the avalanche and over to the right. He fell something like 30 or so feet before he hit the ground again, and then he kind of sat up and he looked around and he realized he had successfully jumped out of the avalanche. And then it's like suddenly the visibility just opened up and Kurt was able to look to his left where the avalanche had gone. The land where they had been walking down this mountain was gone. And so he's looking into this crevasse where the avalanche went and thinking, I gotta go find Hermann. But when he got up there was no sign of Hermann. He noticed that he could see very easily their tracks. He just kind of tracked these tracks all the way down the mountain to where he was. He noticed something. Here is a photo of what Kurt would have seen. However, keep in mind, this was not a photo Kurt took. So in this photo, you can see the mountain and the summits at the top, and there's a trail that goes straight down and then appears to diverge where there's tracks that go to the left and the other set of footprints that disappear off the cliff. The footprints that go to the left are Kurt's footprints. He just magically jumped and landed on the absolute edge of where this avalanche was going to happen, and Hermann is the other set of prints. And so when that avalanche started, there was nowhere for Hermann to go, and he was sucked into that avalanche and dragged over 1,000 feet down the mountain, and his body was never recovered.